welcome to the stream. It's about a minute after, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you're interested, you can jump into the Discord or let me know in chat if you have any questions, and I'll try and keep my eye on the chat as well. So I'm Mark. I've been doing 3D design about 3 years, maybe going on 4. Started off kind of just with Tinkercad, and every time I tried to move away from it, I kind of got drawn back into it because it's so fast and intuitive and easy. So I feel like I've progressed pretty well. So we're going to we're in Tinkercad now. We'll create a new design. Our work plane comes up. We are going to name this Cobra Commander's gun, and we are going to start with a cylinder because I'm going to start at the front of the gun. So what I like to do is keep a box available. We're going to shrink this down just to make it easier. So I like to keep a box out here for measuring. Think of it as my ruler. So right off the bat, before I get too into it, down at the bottom right, where it says Edit Grid and Snap Grid, I'm going to change that to off, and that's going to allow me to change my shapes in increments of 0.01 millimeters versus 1.1 or 0.25, 0.5, 1 mil. That's too much. We're working way too small. I am copying a design that already exists. This is a weapon or toy that was created in the early 80s for Cobra Commander's action figure. So I'm not reinventing the wheel. I've got a couple pictures. Let me see which hand this is going to be. I think it's up here. A couple pictures sliding by, and you can see some examples of what we're going to be doing. I'm pulling one up on my screen that you won't be able to see. Long story short, I'm going to take some calipers, measure what's on my screen, and then we will rescale that later to fit the 1/12 scale 6-inch classified line. So we're going to start kind of at the front of the gun. This is going to be 18.5. It's kind of huge. All right, so I've got a bit of a measurement. We just got to make sure everything kind of matches. So looking at the image, there's actually a bit of a taper. So the back end is going to have a little more width than the front, but it's very slight. But what we'll do is we'll take a cone, bring this out here, rotate it 90. I'm going to give it more sides because we want it to be as smooth as possible. What would we say this was? 14.7. 14.7, and the front of the cone we're going to make a little less than that. So we'll go top. I just need the tiniest bit, so I'm going to bring this to 8.75. That's a little too much. We'll go 9, and that's good enough for me. So now I just need to get this length down. What did I say? 18.5. 18.5. Yeah, that looks good. So this is near the front of the gun, but not quite the exact front. I'm gonna have a little bit of a gap, and then another cone, I think. But what we can do is take this, shrink it down. I think that'll work for me. I'm just going to make it a little smaller. I'm going to give it plenty of sides. Make it solid. And then we will come up here and align so that it is centered up on that cone. I'm going to duplicate my cone, bring it out. And for now, we're going to just shrink it down. Make that top radius a little bigger. Not bad. I'm just going to eyeball that bit. All right. So now we've got these grills on the front of the gun. Actually, I need to measure how wide that should be. Hold on. Interesting. I made it a little short. I'll go 7.25. 7.2. That's fine. Actually, we'll go 7 because we're going to add the aforementioned grills. So I bring in a new box. So on the pictures I'm looking at, it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 grills set up. It's not a whole lot. Where's my images? I'm gonna look at another. I want to look at the illustration on the box art real quick. I know it's sliding by, but I can't see it. There we go. So on here, on the illustration, on the original package art, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 grills, and they don't start until they're down a little bit from the top of the barrel to the bottom. On the original 3 3/4 figure, you got to remember this gun was teeny tiny. They couldn't do 6. But upscale that to the 6-inch figure, and I can do whatever I want. Especially with the technology we have to print on SLA or DLP, like I can get away with kind of however I want to do this. So we are going to do closer to the box art. So I'm going to bring this up. Oh yeah, and that's, we'll just do solid millimeter. I'll make that a nice green color. All right, so bring that up a pinch more. So here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to make a copy, space that copy down a bit, and then I just copy, 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 copy. And I've got my 6. Bring that up a little bit. Cool. So for my next trip, we've got to cut that out, right? So there's 2 ways to do it. I could make holes out of those and group it with that piece, and poof, I've got grills. Or we can add them, which is what I'm going to do for the sake of argument. I'm going to do that a little shorter just because. Okay. So let's call this a learning moment. Get my sides up. And before I forget, we are going to group all of those. And just to make this a little easier for my eyes, we will align everything. And that's pretty close. I like that. I do want if you look on the box art, there's a bit of a space between the grills and that edge of the barrel right there. And we're talking, what is that, 0.2 of a millimeter? But that'll be enough for my gap that I want. All right, so let me just, I'll duplicate this box. I'll bring it over. Okay, we're going to align everything again, and I'm going to cut that circle out of that box. Okay, now I make a hole out of that box. I grab my grill, make it solid, group it with it. Oh, damn it. Damn it. Wasn't paying enough attention there. All right, so we'll bring that out a bit, bring that out a bit. Good enough. Group those, make that a hole, grab the grill, make it solid, group it, and bam. So it's nice and centered up and looks okay. So just to note, I just realized I used Joker colors. So when I click this Tinkercad button, it brings me back out to the main screen, and it basically at that moment saves where you're at. So that's sort of the trick I've learned to saving in Tinkercad, in case, God forbid, you lose power or something like that. You click back out to the main screen on this Tinkercad box and you're saved. Just gonna hit chat real quick. All right. Okay, so next we're gonna have another cylinder. Solid. Turn up my sides. And oh, because I clicked out and came back in, my snap grid is reset, so I just gotta put that back on. None. Actually, let me take a look real quick. I think, oh, was my stuff? There we go. All right. So rather than actually do that, we're gonna grab this guy and stretch him out, which makes it a little thin. So we're just gonna tweak that up a bit, since I'd eyeballed it before anyway. But it's already centered and it's basically the right shape. Damn it, I did not mean to do it that time. Kind of not used to clicking back and forth. Usually I have a separate window set up so I don't have to do this. But streaming kind of complicates that a little bit. So it looks like we will have another cylinder, and that's going to extend back a bit. That's going to be about the same height as the front. Call it 13.7. What is this? So it's a little smaller, really. 13.75. Cool. I know I want my gap to be about 7.25. So here's one of my little tricks. I'll make this the length I want my gap to be. I'll just bring it in. we're talking fractions of a millimeter here. So that's gonna be good enough for me. Take a quick measurement. 27.75. So hopefully I didn't just hose myself. Cool, that worked. Yeah. Yeah, I had a question about rounded edges. And this is actually the spot where I was going to be doing that anyway. So it's pretty simple. We're going to bevel this corner just a little bit, and then I'm going to turn the segments up, and that's going to round it. And honestly, I like to work with these rounded edges like this when I'm printing. I'm a big fan of the old, the original 80s GI Joes, and if you look at those guns and the accessories that came with it, that's all, you know, injection molded plastic from the 80s, and they did not maintain sharp edges, so everything ended up kind of rounded, and it's just a nice look, and it looks good when it prints. I'm not going to worry about it up here. For me to do a round edge on this, you know what? Fuck it, we'll do it. Excuse my language. But 14 points. Here's what we're going to do. I'll do a copy. Go 14.7. So here's the thing with rounded edges, and this is true for cylinders and cubes. So how round that is determined by the length of the object. So you can see how that bevel changes. I'm going to turn back here. Oh, wrong thing. Boop. All right. Okay, there we go. So you can see as I change this, how the roundness of that edge is going to change. So the trick is to find the amount of roundness you want. I like it about right there. I like a nice, almost half circle. All right. Now we're gonna duplicate. Just slide this over, make it a little bigger. I don't need the bevel, the segments. I don't even need the sides anymore. I'm gonna shrink it down a bit, make it a hole. And I'm gonna capture right up to the edge, right before that curve starts. Just a little crazy. We'll fucking center it up, group it. Marry it up. I'm going to make this a pinch shorter since we're adding some width to it. There we go. The trick is making sure that these overlap just a hair. Let's see. All right, so next we're gonna do these interesting ribs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's like 8 ribs, 8 small ribs, a little gap, and then a wider but shorter one. We'll knock that guy out first, and just like I did a minute ago, we'll just do that. Grab a quick measurement. It's about 3.7. Really? Okay. Sometimes I just like to pretty subtle thing. Bring it down just a pinch more. Okay, and we'll do another duplicate of this guy. So the ribs that are on here, the way they look, they're pretty round. If I, with my rounded edges, just do this, you can see like there isn't much there to really play with. So let me get a measurement on the width of one of these things. I go about 2. Call it 2. Oh, that's not bad. All right. So we know we want a 2 millimeter wide thingy, and I know I want it more round, so we're going to do just like we did a minute ago. Let me bring this up here. So this is my 2 millimeter width. So I know I can bring the this roundness to about halfway here. So I'm just gonna do that. And then just like I did before, duplicate, flip it, go. I can group these, that, and blam. Now it's a shape that I am comfortable with. I think I had like 6 or 7 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. All right. They're right on top of each other too. So do a duplicate. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not bad. All right. Here we move towards the back of the gun. So we'll start that with a box. And it looks... I'll tell you what, this would be easier if I physically had one here. And I do own one, but it's in Colorado right now, and I'm in Maryland. So, oh well. Let me duplicate this guy, bring it over. Yeah, so a bunch of people, so somebody made one of these to 3D print like life size, like full scale, and it's been on Tinkercad for years. So I was too concerned about making a copy, and a couple of people have been doing it. It's a pretty obvious gun to do, and then the Supreme Cobra Commander is coming with one anyway, so it wasn't a real high priority for me. I chose to do this today because this basic part, this first part, building the gun, is kind of simple and quick. But what I want to do is make a backpack for this guy, so we can actually stick the gun on his back. So that'll be part 2 that I'm doing today. I consider it a bit more advanced because to do it right, we're going to do some things that aren't necessarily very intuitive. But they aren't necessarily really hard either. And one thing I really like about Tinkercad... Oh, I see what I did. is I'm working with solids. I'm not working with wireframe. I'm not working with mesh. I'm working with a solid. So when I take this final product and export it, it is filled, it is solid, there's no potential holes. I don't have to go into Mesh Mixer and repair. I don't have to do any of that nonsense. It is 100% ready to go as soon as I want to print it. And to me, it just makes things so much easier. We'll go. Let me give me a moment to look at a different picture so I can get an idea of. Okay, they kind of hide the this bit. Interesting stuff. Okay. So this part, I'm definitely gonna round this bit. Cool. Look at this. There's this piece. It drives me bananas. I don't know what its purpose would be. Comes out here like this. Just a quick measure. .3 and 57. I'm going to bam, do that. And I'm definitely gonna round this guy a little bit. Not a much, just a pinch, just to smooth it out. There we go. I guess I did not align it that way yet. Let's do that. Boom. Okay. This clearly got to be a little wider. I think there's a good chance these grills are going to get extended. I might as well just do that now. Just a pinch, just so we can see them really nice. Looks like underneath here we've got a little button. So buttons you can do a couple different ways. I like to do circles sometimes. Circles work good for rivets as well. Sometimes I'll do a cone and just bring it down. I like doing the cone because I can turn the sides down. Maybe not 3. But I can make it look like a nice selector button. I think that's what I'm going to do here. I don't want to do just a rivet. Let me see what the illustration looks like. Illustration doesn't really have that particular piece of detail on it. Yeah, we'll do a little selector button. Maybe he wants to turn up the microwave or whatever the hell this thing's supposed to be. quick. I feel like I'm making this thing really small. I am. 3.75. Okay, and this arm I have out here, it looks like it's actually not in the center. It looks like it's up higher. Bring that up. And this will give me room for my button, my knob, if you will. All right. So I am a guy that builds models and paints minis. And when I do that, I like panel lines. I like lines I can use to later do like a wash, because that really helps kind of bring out shadows. I grab this way. I'll line that up. All right. So this guy, I'm gonna get the sides up. Bring that in. So what I want to create here is just a little indentation around the button, just like that. Just something that I can, if I paint it and I use a wash, that it can flow into there. Doesn't need to be a lot, just a little. We do want the button to extend past there, so it's actually connected to what we do. And then, just for the sake of argument, I'm going to do a little duplicate here. We're going to bring it out a bit, and I'm going to shrink it down a bit. Bring it back in, make a hole. We're going to line all this nonsense. All right, so I'm going to cut that shape out of that shape. So it's a super tiny detail that realistically is way too small to see. On the original package art, it looks like there's a crosshair paint. It looks like an X-Men logo up above it, which is kind of weird. And again, this button doesn't exist on the package art. So we're going to grab these two, do duplicate, bring it around the other side, flip it, oops, and bring it in. So I can see right here, you can see this color change when it makes contact with that. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, two, three, four, 5. So I will grab the hole, the box, the other hole, group it. Now I'll grab the knob and the knob, group it. I'm going to make this thing not red because red just drives me bananas. I can't believe I actually left that stuff going this long. You know what, just so it's a little more attractive, we'll just make the whole thing gray. And now that I'm looking at it, I think that knob's too high. So let's ungroup. We'll grab all of those items. I'm gonna bring them down, just kind of center them up right there. Okay. Ah, I missed one. Poop. Hole, knob, knob, bring it down, hole, box, hole, group, knob, knob, group, make it all gray. All right, starting to look like something, right? Taking me a little longer than I had hoped. Let's see. All right, looks like on the back we have a bit of a, I don't know if you'd call it a belt. You know what? I gotta get the rest of this down first. Looks like there's a couple different models of this thing, and I'm looking at more than one. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, so there is a interesting shape back there. Let's bring this guy in. So Tinkercad it's fast, but it ultimately is going to have some limitations. Like, I can't do anything organic in this. I wouldn't want to do a leaf or a face or a robe, or there's some shapes that are just really difficult to try and capture because you just don't have a certain type of control. So I like it for doing like an industrial kind of shape like this. You know what? So this down here, and it looks like that's going to dead end right into it. Get a measurement on the height. So this bit's interesting. So this is like a protrusion. It's not a good one. Yeah, that's going to come down. Center this up real quick. Because I want to, and basically I'm just going to cut a little bit off, do a duplicate, bring that up, make it a hole, make it bigger, turn up this way. So I'm going to duplicate this, I'm going to shrink it, bring it out, bring it out over here. So when you stretch out odd shapes like this, it's never going to quite match up the thing you're trying to center it on. So you can see like this side's wider than this is here. So I'm gonna bring it back a pinch, but that's gonna change the angle over here as well. we're working at really small scale, so it's not a big deal. I just like it to look good. So here's another limitation. So because I did this cut, this is not a square anymore. I've lost the ability to round the edges. So I'm stuck with that being just like that. What's the... Pardon me while I look at references. Look at the chat real quick. Sorry, guys. Looks like this is gonna come back here, and it'll come out here and dead end into that. I don't know what that thing is. The knobs. Seems pretty straightforward. So we're gonna widen this up. And I'm definitely gonna round this guy. So this is one of those cases where I do not like that edge. So I'm gonna bring this back, get it to where I like it, which is kind of at a square. That's acceptable. And then all I gotta do is duplicate it. And let's do it this way. Duplicate it. I'll just group all that nonsense together. So that's one piece, and it's going to maintain the roundness that I want all the way around. So this gun, I would not have guessed there were this many versions of this gun. And I'm kind of using a couple different references, so it's getting a little annoying. So there's one version where this, we'll call it a peg because that's really what it is and why it's there. There's some versions where the peg is pretty rounded and plain looking. I imagine that's the V1. I hate that this thing's default colors are red. Just drives me bananas. Alright. So imagine like that's the peg. So I think this is the V1, where it's just like this. And then there's versions, and the one I've been looking at is one of them where there's an X protruding out. So if I go back to our package art, it looks flat, but with color. It's up there now on the screen, or was. Yeah, it almost looks like a scope, but obviously that doesn't make sense. So what do we want to do? So at the end of the day, we are building this thing so that it will in fact maybe not snap in, but fit in to a backpack. So for me, I think that means I want like a tapered end. So we're going to get rid of that. Actually, we'll bring that out. How do I want to do this? I think cone. I think cone is the way to go. Bring this in again. Get my cone. Bevel there anymore. Just need 8.5. We'll go 8.5 just to make it nice and round. There it goes up. You can see the that ring around the cone there, so I'm just gonna bring this out until it just kisses it. There we go. I'm gonna bring my top up. So you can see I've got just a tiny bit of this taper going on. Now I've got even more. I don't want it extending too far past the sides. There's so many different ways to do this. So here's another trick. See this this box right here for going up and down. If I look below the model, it comes down here. Sometimes it's not always where you want it to be. Duplicate, bring it over here. I'm going to group these, and we'll center it up on our cone. Group them, do a duplicate on that piece, rotate it 90. Make sure these are centered on each other. They are. We'll group it. Now I'll center it up on this guy. Cool. And do a duplicate. Bring it over here, flip it, bring it in as well. I want it to, again, just kiss the side. You can see there's a teeny tiny gap right there. You definitely don't want that. That's close, but not close enough. That's right where I want it. So, and that's the same. So, I always do it this way though, right? I'm trying to make this thing look the same on each side. So even though I know those are pretty much right on, I'm gonna group them, grab that middle piece, and align it, and now they are perfectly centered. So we're gonna group this guy real quick. And this isn't quite where it needs to be, and honestly, I don't think I really measured it. I just kind of went off on a tangent there. Alright, let me grab this guy, Lamb. I'm curious how long have I been farting around now? Ugh, almost an hour. This is taking way longer than I'd hoped. So there's a couple little details on the back side. Actually, let me grab that. Looks like there's even a little divot. I think I'll use a cylinder for that. Maybe next time I'll get some music going. I haven't streamed anything in a while. I was doing games for a little while. Mostly MechWarrior Online. It's been a while. All the software has changed. Even Twitch isn't exactly the way it used to be. Duplicate, swing that over, and guesstimate where the other one is. Again, we'll group those two up, and we use that to align. Okay, well, they're grouped. Grab that box, make my divot. Cool. Oh, we've got this little bell looking thing. Let me see if there's a better picture of it I can look at. Not really. So there is a thing called a half sphere, and it's exactly what it says. And then we've got the sphere. So if I'm trying to do like a little rounded curved end just sitting there, I'm tempted to use a half sphere. Seems like if I always debate this. So you can change the number of sides on the sphere, but it looks like at max it matches up. So we'll do the half sphere. Rotate 90. I don't want it quite that tall. I'm just kind of squish it a little bit. Cool. All right, looks like we've got to do the handle. So this will be interesting. Yeah, we'll just do this. So this is one of those parts that's a little more tricky than others. So we want it to run from there, basically right up to the edge over here. Bring this down just a pinch. And we know we want it to be thinner. How much thinner kind of depends. But I do want to grab a measurement. We'll get a good idea how long this thing is. All right. 23.5. Seems like I might be a little short. Do that. So basically, we're going to cut this thing out. Yeah. So we'll start with a cylinder. Get ready. Turn off our sides. Bring this up. I should figure out from the end how far in I want that to be. 9.5. Make that not red, go brown. Duplicate. We'll make that red. Cool. Okay, so this is my kind of measuring stick here. I know that I want the circle in that far. The rest of it is about 7.25. I'm going to do a duplicate, bring this down just to make this a little easier for myself. Make it a hole, cut it out of the handle. So here's where, not so much tricky, this is kind of trick of the trade here. Let's do a duplicate, bring that down, bring it over, bring it up. Gonna make sure this cylinder cuts all the way through. So this is gonna become a hole. I think I grab this one, then this one, and this should move when I align. And you can see it does. If you can see these orange and blue lines above that box that I'm aligning to the circle doesn't have the blue and orange. This has got an orange. So you'll see the box is going to hop up to match the top of the cylinder. So I'm going to grab this and bring it. Try and find right where the middle of that cylinder is. That's close enough. So now the next one, pinch trickier. Grab that guy, duplicate him, bring him down, make him longer. And I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to grab my cylinder, grab this guy, doing a line. I'm going to group them. Now hopefully I can rotate. Duplicate. And I'll do a rotate like this. And now I should be able to grab this one, grab that one. Grab this one, grab that one, and align. And that's not wanting to do it. Let's just get it a little closer first. Basically, I'm using this straight edge here. So that this looks right. And it's barely even doing anything. I'll rotate it a bit more. All right. Now we'll take our original, which I don't need that anymore. Original, then this guy, align right, and align top. Now, get this out of the way. Okay, so in theory, I should be able to cut that out. And apparently I had duplicated that, but there we go. So that's that part. And the other part is another 2 cuts. I want it to be about 11.75, so to duplicate, boom. So about the same places here. Do that, and then we want one of these. Up here. And then this will be at a little bit of an angle. Too much. Go a little bit less. And I'll do a little bit of aligning. Bam. Now I just gotta get in real close. Try and make those 2 corners meet up about right there. Group all that shit. There we go. So I don't love that. That doesn't look great. I think this guy needs to rotate a little more. I think what I'll do is add a cap at the bottom. And this is definitely, it's just too short looking. Let's do another one of these. I'm gonna bring this down. Oh. Hit the wrong thing. That doesn't matter, so I don't go down too far. Cool, I can work with that. Like I said, I'm going to add a little cap at the bottom because I'm saucy. We've got some other details on there. How do I want to do this one? So definitely a bit of a panel line going on. Start there. Goes all the way up. Yeah. So here's another one of my favorite tricks. So I'm going to duplicate that piece. I'm going to shrink it. You can see the edges there. Then we'll make it a darker color. Select that hole, select this piece, group them. Now you can see the little kind of panel line that I've created down the center of the stick. What else? Now we've got kind of grips. I think we'll just do that with panel lines as well. The trick is, so I'm going to squeeze that piece back, but to do that, I mean, it'll end up encroaching on this shit. So we're gonna kind of get rid of it. So we'll group those, and we'll do the same up here. Cool. So now we just need to see these start kind of right at the bottom of this. Okay, duplicate it. I'm just going to do it this way. Doot. Just make that bottom one the same as the rest. We'll do that. Hit this. Bam. Okay. I just need to put that in the right place. All right. Yeah, I don't really feel like tooling with this too much more right now. I really wish I physically had one to look at. That would make it a little easier. But not bad. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of something to it because it drives me bananas. Let's do a quick 90 here. Cut that little piece out. And I'll add, where is the Paraboloid? I love the Paraboloid. Make it a little taller and shrink it. Now it looks like maybe that's a sight. I'm gonna ungroup this guy. Ungroup that. I need to have a little more detail. It's kind of super plain. What I want to take that cylinder, duplicate it, make it smaller and longer. shit. Nice. But what I want to do, duplicate this guy, bring him out, ungroup it, get rid of that crap, make that bigger, thinner, make it a hole. So sometimes when you duplicate something, if you go to duplicate it again, if you've made changes to it, it'll apply all those changes to the next copy. So you have to unselect it and then select it again. So if you see me clicking away and then clicking back on something, that's why. I think that ended up a little too small, so I'll make it a little bigger. Guy, then the big guy, then group. Nope. Yes. Grab that guy. Bam. Alright. Freaking weird looking, but I'm gonna call that done because I really need to move on to the next part. Okay, so I've got my Cobra Commander here. I don't really feel like pulling this gun out of his hands. Basically, I'm gonna measure the width of the pistol grip. So 4.3. So here's how we're gonna do this. 4.3. So now I need to make that width match that width. So I grab my grouped up thing, and I'm just gonna start shrinking it down. A little too much. So this is just scaling the model I made to fit into the hand of the figure that I want it to fit into. So there it is. That should work. So at this point, what I would normally do is go run a 3D print. 3D printing is called rapid prototyping for a reason. I would do a rapid prototype. I try it out, see if it fits in his hand, if it looks too big, if it looks too small, and then make modifications based on that until it's where I want it to be, until it's where I like it. We're not going to do that today because we're going to be doing a part 2. So I go back to Tinkercad, create new design. I'm going to call this Cobra Commander's backpack. Yay, huge name. All right. There's been a couple pictures sliding by, or there should have been, of what the backpack looks like. So it's going to stand off a little bit. Long story short, we want the gun to fit inside. There's some issues with that. There are some complications because when you 3D print, at least with DLP, you get some growth. Like if I set something, if I set this to be, say like a 2mm by 2mm cylinder, God damn it, it's not going to actually print exactly 2mm. It's going to be, you know, just a little bit bigger. If I have a box, and I put a 2mm hole through it, that hole isn't going to be a 2mm hole, it's going to be a 1.7 or something like that. So if I try to match up an exactly 2mm cylinder with an exactly 2mm hole, it's not going to work. I'm going to have to sand it, shave it, something. So what I have to do is kind of guesstimate how much the cylinder is going to grow and how much the hole is going to shrink. So we'll kind of cross that bridge in a little bit when we come to it, but it's something I've got to keep in mind. I've got my Cobra Commander here. I haven't. I'm gonna probably try and get my hands on a second one, so that I am not afraid to customize this one. I don't even want to pull these straps off yet because I feel like it'd be just about impossible to get back on. So if I get my hands on a second one, I'll be painting this guy and doing some other stuff. But on his back, we've got a little hole. It's a little hex, actually, that we can put a backpack into. The old school Cobra Commander, I remember as a kid, I thought it was like part of his shirt. I thought it just was molded to his back so tight that it wasn't a backpack. But if you look at the images I've had scrolling through, you can see it's got straps and everything. It's clearly a backpack. So cool. The old one, it's real basic. It's just got a couple little shapes to make it look electronic-y, but there's not much to it. The 25th or 30th or 50th anniversary, whatever they are, figures when they've redone him. I think I've got some pictures there. A couple of those scrolling by. A little bit more detail. That's certainly less of a backpack, more of attached to his shirt. And there's quite a bit of detail inside where the gun's going to go. But they've also got the gun rotated in a different way. I guess it makes sense. Like if I was right hand dominant and reached back, I would grab the handle and come like this. So it kind of makes sense. Hadn't actually chosen which way I wanted to go. In my head I was going to do this original 80s figure, but now that I'm thinking about it, it makes more sense that he would, you know, Bruce Willis grab the duct tape gun off of the back of his shoulder like that and be able to shoot it. If it's the other way, like he'd have to mess with it. So I think that's the way we'll go. So the trick we're gonna have is that we want it to look right on here. So that's gonna involve some tricky measuring. So I've grabbed this is just some type of clay stuff that the kid here had, and she volunteered to let me have it, and I smushed it onto Cobra Commander's back, and so that gives me a pretty good idea of how round his back is and how deep and big that peg hole can actually be. That's actually pretty loose, even though it came right out of him. So we're gonna start with the peg. Where's my comb? Here's my comb. Do a 90. Flip it. Give some more sides. All right. So knowing that this is already a little too small, I'm probably going to keep this size because, like I said earlier, it's going to grow when we print it. And we'll see how it goes from there. So at the very back, we're looking at 3.37. 3.3. I'm going to go 3.35. About 3.5. I'm going to go 3.45. All right. No, we'll go 3.5 because I'm going to have to inset this into the backpack when they kiss up real nice. And then for the top, we're going to go 9.75. So that gives me just the tiniest bit of a taper. So the other thing is that because it's a hex, I'm not sure how this circle's gonna. We'll go 9.5. A little more taper. Now that should get us started. That should be a good start. So having put this this nonsense on his back already, this is too big. You can see it. That's too big, but that gives me some parameters, right? I know I want it to be about 20 millimeters. I was talking height. That's 20 right there. Is that right? Did I mess that up? Yeah, 20 it is. And I know I want about 8 of those to be above the top of the peg. Make this our measuring stick. Up to about the top of the peg. I'll just bring this up to match. Cool. Grab both of those, deselect that, and get this guy out of here. Okay. So we're gonna go grab a copy of our gun real quick to play with. Just to be sure, I'm gonna hit copy. Rotate that guy. And we'll do 45. That is the wrong 45. We'll go -90. There we go. So the one thing I know for sure is that that peg I created has to go in. I need to put this back on off. It's pretty close right there. So I know I need this to be a pinch wider. About right there. And we'll bring that up a bit. cool. And I think that's gonna work for me. Yeah, so, but you know what? I want a different shape. I want like a trapezoid. We're gonna go over here. We're gonna get out of the basic shapes and go down to all. And we'll just try and find our better shape. There's a trapezoid. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this guy. Yeah, that's my guy. I'm gonna bring him in. Should have done that. Better off bringing the gun down. All right. Here's where it's going to get super interesting. All right. If I just put this on his back and it's flat like that, it's going to protrude. It's going to look weird. It's not going to sit right. I know I'm going to need my my peg at a bit of an angle to clip in. So I'll have to do that in a moment. But before we do that, I've taken a picture, a profile shot of Cobra Commander's back. So we are going to Adobe Illustrator. So I've got this profile picture of his back here. I took a profile picture of the little piece of clay that I pulled out. It's pretty crappy though. But what we are gonna do, zoom in a bit. I'm gonna take my pen tool and I'm going to kind of trace the back. Okay, so I've created this shape. Come on now. There you go. So that's the shape of his back. I'm gonna just remove those for now. We're gonna take this piece. We're gonna go File, Export As, and we'll call this, let's replace that one. Did a little test one earlier. We're calling it back.svg. Yep, I do. That was super loud. Okay. worked. All right, so here we go. I'm going to import back.svg, import, and there's his back. Oh, I didn't switch back, did I? We're going to go through those steps again because it's pretty key. So we'll go back over here, get rid of that. So import, choose file, grab our SVG, open it, import, bam. We're going to do a rotate. And where's the handle? There it is. Go to 90. So we know, go back to, where's that, Illustrator. Take away the fill. So I'm going from kind of just right below that thing on his neck to just about there. So 27.3 is what I'm going to guesstimate. Yeah, we'll call it 25.75. So we're going to make, I'm going to shift and drag this until that number reads 27.75-ish. That's close enough. So it's pretty cool. This is just an extrusion, you know? So if I go back to my pick real quick, I measure from the top of the peg to where I think the top of this is, it's about 7 millimeters. Make that 7. Oh, you punk. Sometimes, I tell you. This. Right when that touches. Okay, about right there. So this piece should look kind of like that. Which means that this is going to have to come down. So in theory, that is the shape of his back. So we'll cut that out of there, and hopefully no gun is protruding through, and there isn't. We're going to align that peg. And when I look at it, the peg's just got this little bit of a downturn. I don't really have a great way to measure that, so I'm just gonna give it like give it 3 degrees. Damn it. And we just need this to kiss in here all the way around. So at the bottom, because of this angle, we gotta make sure the bottom touches. There we go. Okay. So in theory, that should kind of take care of that. So let's go back to our, what I do? Hit the DPI button on my mouse. Let's go back to basic shapes, and we're gonna grab a cylinder. Well, you know what? We're not gonna do that yet. What I want to do is, if you look at the back of this guy, we've got this pinstripe that kind of stands out a bit, and we've got these like serpent scales on across his shoulders. So we want the backpack to match that design. So I'm going to do an undo here. That gives me my original shape back. I'm going to do a duplicate and a little bit of a shrink. That's nice because you can see exactly where it's at. All right. So the line, the pinstripe line that goes across, kind of lines up with the bottom. Get this thing out of here. Lines up kind of with the bottom of this thing. So the bottom is just below and the top is kind of there. We're going to get pretty close. It won't be perfect. But again, I have no intention of believing this is going to be a perfect print the first time it comes out. Let's 1.2. No way. Really? 1.2. Yeah, 1.2. Well, we'll go 1.15. So it's just a little bit below. Cutting through here. So we're gonna have that. Do that. And that's a bit more than I'd like, so we're gonna do it like that. Now on his back, it jumps up and goes around the backpack line. There's no reason to do that. I'm not going to bother with that. But what we do have are the scales. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to go back over to Illustrator. Delete these guys for now. Take my pen to is it a circle? Yes, it's like a half circle. Let's grab a circle. Grab our ellipse tool. So the trick with SVGs is this thing has to be a shape. It can't be a line. That and get a square. Okay. So this is a shape. It isn't a line. It's just a shape. It's a little half circle. I'm going to stretch it this way just a pinch. But that's all we need. So we will export for screens. Oh, sorry. Kind of Russian. Export as. So another SVG. We're going to call this one scale. Export. Okay. And back over to Tinkercad. There we go. Okay. We will import, choose file, scale, open, import. It's pretty basic. Oh, nice. I worry sometimes. Sometimes they don't, they just don't want to work. So we'll do that. And now copy. I think they vary up that way. Pretty much. Oh. Yeah. Alright. Copy. Son of a gun. Duplicate. See where I'm going with this? No. Duplicate. No. So basically just going to create a field of these that we can add backpack. Obviously, it's too big. These are pretty tiny. Pardon me while I try and measure this out a little bit. Just getting striking distance of the right size. I've kind of put myself in a bit of a box here. Just need to grab all that shit and move it out of the way. I'm going to shrink this just a pinch more. Okay. So we're going to group that. And we're going to start basically pasting this onto the backpack. see a spot that's kind of pissed me off. Let's group. Copy that guy. Group that again. Call it right there. So we're gonna want to duplicate it a couple of times. We'll nail this one in. Get it set in stone. Ah, I forgot to make it a hole. All right, now we've got some scales there. So now I'm gonna angle this one, just like this, kind of eyeballing it. That's pretty damn good for eyeball. If I bring it one, one's too much, so right there, that's fine. Move it in to take our bite. So the trick is I want to try and marry these up. Definitely too deep. I'm not sure if I love that, but we'll take a look. We'll see how it looks. All right, I can bring it down a bit. So I see a flaw back here. There should have been another scale bit right there. I'm just not even gonna worry about it right now. We're gonna have to get through this thing. So I'm just gonna duplicate it, flip it, move it into place. Remember, whatever I do on one side, I always want to make sure I do to the other. I'll group those, do an align. Then we'll do our top. Now for those corners, the scale shit's just kind of not gonna work. So I'm just gonna do like this ribbed disc thing. And that should hide the nonsense we've got going on. So duplicate. We'll see if I can get away with doing this. That kind of worked. I'm going to shrink this back just a pinch. Just I don't want it in with the scales. There we go. Ah, damn it. I like that because that looks like scales to me. Just gonna flip it. Again, we're gonna group it. Grab the backpack, grab that doodad, do an align. Yeah, I want to do just a little bit of the old school design. Bevel the shit out of that. I'll do 6 boxes. Sorry. Okay. We're going to align those down the middle. Duplicate that guy. Rotate it 90. You bastard. Those two are going to get aligned down the middle. I'm just going to marry that up. There we go. So a little bit of old school detail. I'll throw some like little rivets on there, I think. So grab a hex 90. Make that pretty small. more of a bolt than a rivet, I guess. Give it a little bit of a bevel. So here's how we make the big bucks. We got that guy. We're gonna do a copy. Bring it down to about there. Grab the original. Group them. Deselect. Reselect. Made a copy. Rotate that. Let's look what 15 looks like. 15 was not enough. What? At this point, we'll delete it. We're going to copy, rotate, let's go 60. And then we'll copy again. Cool. So now we've got that. Let's bring this out. Shrink it down. Back in. Cool. Big guy, got the little guy. Doing a line. Group those shits. I'm gonna grab all these, group those, grab that guy, do another align. So now that's centered up. Cool. All right. Now here's the trickiest of parts. This guy, we're going to ungroup. Get rid of that. I'm just getting rid of some of the extra stuff that I don't need. Because it's only gonna, the information is only gonna make this model a little bigger. Oh, hey. Hello, Tails. How's it going? How's it going? I'm gonna make this thing a pinch bigger. I'm gonna make this whole damn thing. Let's group it. A pinch bigger. All right. We are going to group that. Make it a whole. Eventually, when it feels like it. Really taking its time. There we go. We're gonna slide that guy in there, ever so gently. I'm not gonna need that guy. problem right there. Maybe over here. And that needs to be lower. So we're gonna right there. That's not so bad now. All that should just be a solid cylinder. There we go. We're gonna cut that guy out. So all those SVGs that I imported, they eat up a lot of memory inside of Tinkercad. At least that's been my experience. Oh crap! I do have to do that last. All right, so let's grab our gun and stuff. Shit, no, I wasn't done rendering. We're almost there. So I've got this other box inside, which I used for as the back end for these panel lines, and I'll need to group that with the main body of the backpack before I cut the gun and the shape of Cobra Commander's back out. So we're gonna just move that. We're gonna group this whole bad boy right here. I'm gonna make it a nice Cobra Commander blue. Or am I? There we go. Grab all this nonsense again, bring it back in. Crud. What I didn't, I have to leave the peg out. Those guys, good. Select the peg. There we go. Alright, now we'll group it. And we'll make it nice. Cobra Commander blue. Cool. That's in place, that's there. Bring this guy back in. Okay, so boom, here we go. So I will group this entire thing with the peg, and that's kind of it. I'll do an export and then test print of the gun, test print of the backpack, and that's a good probably 5.5 hours of printing. Hey guys, welcome to my workstation here in the garage. I'm going to get the test print for the Cobra Commander gun and backpack fired up.
got about 3 hours to go.
The first round of test prints turned out fantastic. Just a little bit of tweaking and they're going to be perfect.
Alright guys, hope you liked the video. I plan to stream builds Saturdays at noon East Coast time. So if you have an interest in learning Tinkercad or getting some tips or just chatting, go ahead, get into Twitch. I'll have my links down below. Feel free to jump in the Discord. You can chat, whatever you like. Please like, please subscribe. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, what else? Patreon, Twitter, Twitch, everything. So, see you around.